Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Tamara, and today we are doing our take on the One Chapter Challenge. You've probably seen it on BookTube, aka the book section of YouTube. If you would like to see this in video format, sans the commercials, you will need to head on over to Patreon to sign up, and you can see our beautiful faces. Don't forget, you can also join me and my two co-hosts over on the Book Clubs app for even more book chats. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast wherever you're listening. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me everywhere at Shelf Addiction. Joining me today is feature co-host Casey from Heart Full of Ink. Welcome back, Casey.
Hello, hello. I am so excited to be here.
Yay. Tell everyone where they can find you online.
You can find me on Facebook under Heart Full of Ink or on Instagram under Casey_Heart Full of Ink.
Okay. So, of course, we want to remind you with all book chats, we do talk spoilers. So hopefully we won't spoil anything because we're only doing quote unquote one chapter. So I think the spoilers will be minimum, if anything. So you can listen to this, I think, pretty safely.
Yeah, should be safe.
Yeah. So let me explain why I chose to do this. I was watching YouTube, as you do, as one does, and you get sucked into whatever you're watching. And I saw a couple different people do one chapter challenges. And I'm like, what is the one chapter challenge? And I said, well, let's find out. And I watched a couple videos, and turns out they read one chapter of a book, and they wanted to decide if they thought they would like it or not, or if they wanted to read it or not. So it's kind of like the 100-page challenge, but much more concise.
Yeah, condensed.
Yes. And of course, me being me, the disruptor that I am, I don't follow the fucking rules. And I read more than one chapter because I got Kindle samples of all of them. And I'm like, it's more than one chapter. In a lot of cases, a chapter was not enough. So of 3 of the 4, I went further. And the 4th one, I wasn't digging it. So I kind of made it. This is my excuse to stop. Which is the point of it, right? Which is the point of it. So how did you do with the chapter challenge?
I forced myself to stop. I said, I am done. I am not turning the page. If I want to keep reading, I'll go back and read more later. But I wanted to strictly only have the first chapter for the challenge.
Okay. So how many of the 4 could you have kept reading?
Easily 2, probably 3. Okay. There's one that I was kind of meh onto. And I think it's the same one as you.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay, let's go on 3, the one that we did not want to continue. 1, 2, 3, Malice.
The Awakening.
No! Oh! We are not the same.
I liked Malice.
No, something about... Okay, so let's start. Let's just go in order. So, or any order, really.
Any order.
I started with The Awakening. I did that one first.
I did that one last.
Okay, so we can get into why I liked it and why you didn't like it. So I feel like, to be fair, I like Outlander, right? So I was feeling like I'm not watching this season because I don't have Showtime and I have to wait. So how it started, I'm like, oh, I'm getting Outlander vibes, except for in Ireland, and I'm kind of interested. And then it flips. I don't know how far you read, since I read way more. And then we meet this woman who is, which I love that she is not 20 years old. She's a little bit older.
26.
She's 26. And she's standing up to her mother. Obviously, she's got something going on special. And I'm like, ooh, she's going to go to Ireland for vacation. And then fall into this whole thing. And I don't know, something about it just said, you're going to like this. What?
So I was really intrigued by the prologue with the sword and the lake and everything. That was interesting.
Yeah.
And then just her first chapter, it ends while she's at the office finding out that her mother screwed her over.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, I can see this. But it didn't, if I didn't know, if it didn't have the prologue, I would have thought it was just some women's fiction thing with the woman who's downtrodden, And I did relate to her because student debt is a real thing. Working 2 jobs and going to school and eating ramen. That's a real thing. I totally related to that.
Yeah.
But it ended with her finding out that her mother had $3 million in secret accounts.
Okay.
And she was like, I hate my mother. I want this to be in my name. She's a
raging bitch, her mother.
Yeah.
So because I read further than that. So we learned that, she goes to the finance guy. She gets the money switch. She's like, why is this happening? And then we hear that, we kind of tell by the writing that someone's following her. Someone from somewhere is following her. And like, we get a little bit of their point of view where it seems like like they did something to make the wind go crazy in the office so she would find the papers. This person, whoever it is trying to nudge her to go to Ireland. They basically say, hey, if she didn't choose. So what happens is she's like, I don't fucking like this job. She has a best friend that works at the bar that she likes. It's like a drag bar or something. And they're like, okay, look, I'll go with you to Ireland for a couple weeks if you stop dyeing your hair, face up to your mother, and do, and she's like, fine, I'll do it. So she basically confronts her mother, change her hair, gets a makeover. She looks completely different by the time her mom comes back, and she's off. Like she decided to go to Ireland and they're done. And that was like where it left off for me. So I'm like, okay, so I know someone with magical something is following her.
Okay.
And
that's
changing.
A little more exciting than what I saw, because it felt like, she's riding the bus because she can't afford a car. She's really poor. She's, following her mother's instructions to the T. Like it just didn't quite grab me. And so I definitely, that one was easier to stop.
Yeah. And I could tell that the mother was hiding something. She kept trying to say, well, I raised you, you're safe. And she's like, but this isn't what I want to be doing. And you don't even basically you keep telling me I can't do shit. I don't know shit. I'm not worth shit. And she's like, I never said that. She's like, they had this full on blowout. And I'm like, well, you can tell that the mother was hiding something because she never really said where the money, why she didn't tell her about the money or anything. So I think she's going to discover all of this. So yeah, I'm down to read it. I feel like
that sounds a lot more exciting. But stopping at the end of chapter 1, I was like,
I know. See,
it's kind of women's fiction.
If I had followed the instructions, I probably would feel the same way. But when I got to that point, I'm like, no. Just no.
There's something here. Okay. That inspires me to read at least to the end of the sample.
Okay, great. Yay. All right.
Yeah, yes. No, it was a good start and I could relate to it, but it was just like, out of all 3, it felt like the most boring. Okay. And so I was like, all right. The others have more fantasy. The others have more action, more world building. This is just very ho-hum for a first chapter.
See, I think I agree with you for the first chapter, but I also had an experience reading Nora Roberts in this genre before. I read The One. I think it was called The One. Okay. And I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I went into that thing like, this is going to be meh. And then I ended up reading all 3 books and really liking it. So I just remember kind of like her style in this genre. And again, this is like an unusual choice for me. Okay. But I still think she's a surprise, she's like a sleeper cell in this genre. I don't think a lot of people think of her writing in this genre. And based on the other trilogy, I know there were some high stakes involved. So I think she's going to do something similar. Okay. So I'm hope that I'm right. Because regardless if we pick this or not, you guys, by the way, we are also using this as our method to pick 1 or 2 of our upcoming series. So this is doing 2 for 1 for us. Yay! So yeah,
we're being productive.
Yes. So actually we kind of do this already. You're kind of getting a peek behind the curtain of our process. And this just kind of, just happened to work out. Yes. But yeah, so this is on my list. And is it on yours or still no? Still no?
No, it's definitely on my list. After we get off the podcast, I'm going to go finish the sample just because it's so fresh in my mind. And like I said,
let me know what you think.
The end of the first chapter, it was kind of boring and it wasn't hitting. But, now that there's more magic involved, now that she's planning a trip to Ireland and we know there are these awesome people in Ireland, I'm intrigued. I want to go read more.
Yay! Woohoo! Okay, so I feel happy about that one. Okay, what was your second book? What'd you read? Or what'd you read first? Sorry.
So
What'd you read
I read
first?
Kingdom of the Wicked first, then Scythe, then Malice,
Okay.
then The Awakening last.
Okay, so Kingdom of the Wicked. This one, let me see. I'm like, what's going on in this book?
It was
I read this a couple
the
days ago.
prologue
Oh,
was
yeah.
from Nona's point of view, and then the twin
twins.
girls.
So let's see. This one, how far am I? I know I'm definitely more than a chapter, but I'm only 25% into the thing as a whole. So, well, no, maybe I only read one chapter.
Yeah, I stopped at the end of chapter 1.
Wait, 45%, chapter 2. No, I read through chapter 2. Okay. I had to go back and look. Okay. So you again stopped when you were supposed to. I again did not do the fucking task as I was supposed to. But what did you like about it?
I thought it was very interesting. It's definitely tropes we've seen before, but I like that it takes place in Italy and not America, because more often than not, it's America. So, like, different setting. It felt very authentic, and I think in her dedication, she was dedicating it to her family, so she has that family history. I thought it was going to be the other sister's point of view, Victoria. Yeah. But no, it was Amelia. So I thought that was interesting and fun. But it looks intriguing. Like
I feel like it's really predictable.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, but there's still enough there that it feels like we have witch hunters, we have demons, and we have the Princess of Hades. So, like, there's multiple bad guys, I guess. That's not the word I want to say, but like multiple villains that we can fight through. Like, there's going to be a lot of tension and fighting and violence and the angst between the sisters and the family drama.
I liked the tension between the family. I can't quite tell if the sisters are going to turn against each other or not, but I suspect they will.
Probably.
Because I suspect that, Victoria, Vitt. I think she is definitely more volatile than Emilia is, and I don't know, I think she's one to watch. I think she's going to cause trouble. And of course, again, I read a little bit further, so I can kind of see some of the stuff in her where I'm like, okay, well, there's balance between them. Like, the grandmother gives them amulets. One is gold, one is silver. Like, kind of they're opposites of each other. They're not supposed to, so I can tell one is going to be one way. Like, even at the beginning, the one sister, Emilia, says, oh, I want to do this and I want to have my own place and I want to make what I want to make. And then the other sister, Victoria says, oh, and I'll be queen so I can give you whatever you want. I'm like, okay, so we already can see the difference in how
and their personality
they feel about. Yeah. Right. So I'm like, okay, so I think that's going to be interesting. I like the witchy stuff. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about how religion plays in this, because did you meet the boy yet?
He just showed up at the door and she was walking with him to go make their food, but that's where it ended.
Okay. So the boy is like in this, like, what do you call it when they want to be like priest or whatever?
Not a monastery.
Yeah, kind of like that. So like he thought, like, obviously they had a crush between each other when they were younger. You can tell that they still like each other, but now that he's promised to do this thing, he's not supposed to be with anyone, right? So, and the sister's already like, why don't you guys just kiss or make out or something? It's not too late for him to quit. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So I don't know. I feel okay about this one.
There's another trilogy, and I've just read the first book, Serpent and Dove by Shelby. I don't remember her last name. But it's kind of similar, where he's in like this kind of priesthood army and he's not allowed to have anybody, but there's magic and it's French. not Italian. You might like that one better.
You think?
I think so.
I remember seeing that one. That one was making the rounds on TikTok for a while.
It's good. I read the first book and it was good.
Okay. Because I feel like this has checks the boxes, right? But something, I don't know, just something.
It's not
about
clicking
it.
for you.
It's not screaming, read me right now. I'm not saying no to it, but I'm not.
You're not
ultra
saying
excited
yes to
about it as I was with The Awakening. And I don't know why. I'm not sure. But I read like almost the whole sample now that I look at it. Wait, let me go to the end and see if I read the whole thing on through. No, I stopped at chapter 2. Okay. So I didn't read chapter 3. But, that tells me I stopped at chapter 2.
You stopped and you're like, okay, I'm done.
I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. So were you a yes on this one?
I would have to say Malice was my top pick, and this was maybe 2 or 3. They get shuffled around in my brain a lot, but like it felt familiar, like you said, and it did feel, it's checking all the boxes. And I feel like if we read it, we would know, or it's just kind of like in line of what we've already read in the past.
Yes, and Kingdom of the Wicked is 3 books long. So if we were to engage with that, it's 3 books. And I have to say the cover art for this is gorgeous. The cover art for this trilogy, it has like the skull on it with the crown. So I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. It's appealing. It does check all the boxes, literally. So I don't know, maybe anyone can want to reach out to me and convince me why we should add this, or convince Casey. Let us know. Yeah. Okay. So what was the next one you said you read?
Scythe.
Okay. Scythe is okay. So first off, this is written by a man, and we don't read a lot of men on this, subgenre.
I think we've only done one.
Right. And that is also in this subcategory. Like this one is young adult dystopia / fantasy / sci-fi, which is kind of what Pierce Brown kind of fell into. So this is, I think, a lot less romancy and a lot more everything else. Which I did find it interesting. At first, I'm like, well, I don't like that it started in first person, but then I flipped the chapter. I'm like, oh, wait, it changed. So we're getting like an entry from a site. Yeah. And then we're getting like what's happening. So, yeah, and it flips back and forth, it looks like.
The chapter was really interesting, but the third person omniscient, where you're like in everybody's head, that typically tends to annoy me. And I started feeling myself kind of like, do we really need to know what everybody thinks at this dinner? Like, we can kind of guess, we can kind of assume and know. So I would want to read more of the sample. I stopped at chapter 1, but I would want to read more to see, does he do this consistently throughout every chapter, or is it more limited in the other chapters? But otherwise, like, it was really interesting and it was really good. And I liked how, there's this tension of like, holy shit, like death is at our table, but we don't know if he's here for us. He's just talking about the food, and, Big C is wild. Delicious.
That was wild. So actually, I was, okay, you guys, I'm looking at the time. Let's take a quick break. I could just ramble and forget about the commercial breaks. But I'm like, oh no, commercial break. Okay. So you guys hang tight. Listen to these commercials. By listening to those, you are supporting the podcast. And while you're listening, hop on over to Amazon and check out the book review journal available right now. Stay with us. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. All right, welcome back, guys. So I must say, in that first chapter, I was like, WTF? So at first, it really wasn't catching me. I'm like, okay, what is happening here? It feels like, and then suddenly it just changed. Like halfway through the chapter, I was like, okay, what's up with the girl? Why is she like not calling him out, not giving a two fucks about anything? I'm like, damn.
Yes, I was like, I'm here for this. Yeah. I want a heroine who looks at death and says, fuck you, basically.
Right. And she basically says, okay, you ate your food, get out. I'm like, damn.
Nobody but a teenage girl could do that.
Yeah, I'm like, God, girl. Okay. And then he's like, well, you know, he eventually tells him, well, I wasn't even here for you. I really just smelled the food and was hungry. I'm here for your neighbor. And he literally takes their knife out of their kitchen, goes next door, kills the neighbor, comes back and brings the knife back. And she's like, we don't want that.
He's like, you get to keep it. It's yours forever and always.
She's like, I'm going to drop that shit in the trash. And that's what she does.
Which I don't blame her. I would throw it in the trash can too.
No, I would too. Like, get out of here, man. And then, of course, then we get another entry from the Gleaning Journal because they have to write down everything. I guess it's supposed to help them stay connected.
And have emotions and feel their feelings.
So, I don't hate it. But see, when I flipped to chapter 2, and I only read halfway through chapter 2, but this is what really grabbed me because in chapter 1, we do hear they call them life cycles or something. So this Scythe was pretty old, even though he looked a lot younger. And in chapter 2, this guy hurls himself off of a 39-story building. And then this other character, Rowan, who we just meet, is there in the healing center. And I guess they have speed healing. So it sounds like no one dies traditional ways anymore, which is why they have the Scythes to begin with, because people just don't die of old age or of disease or anything else. Like this guy flung himself off the roof and they healed him in 3 days.
Damn.
He wakes up and he's like, okay, how long was I out? And he's like, 3 days. He's like, yeah, that's the longest ever. He was like doing it for fucking sport. I'm like, oh my God, the hell's going on 4 days? And I'm like, he's doing it for sport. He's like, why do you keep doing this? You're wasting your time. And he's like, did I at least crack the marble? You know, he is like really, and I'm like, what is happening? And then they talk about how like his aunt, I think, or grandmother was back again for her 3rd cycle. And it was upsetting his mother because she came back at 25 and the youngest you can go is 20 or something. And so, of course, his mother was pissed off because his grandmother is now younger than the mother. And so now it's like she did to Spider. Why'd you come back so young? You know,
of course.
And it's like, I'm like, okay, now it's getting a little juicy. So I'm like, okay, what else? But with chapter 1, it was enough to pique my interest, obviously. But I wasn't all in until I got more to like to chapter 2. I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, I would go keep reading right now. And that sounds a lot more interesting and hopefully a lot more limited with the POV, just because like that was my biggest red flag for chapter 1. I was like, just stick with one character's thoughts. I don't want to know the mothers and the fathers and the brothers. Like, I don't want to know everybody's thoughts right now.
Oh, well, I know for sure we're going to have 3 distinct situations probably until they converge.
Well,
so we're going to have
like when
whoever's
you have
journal.
Separate characters that you follow, that's totally fine. Yeah. It's when you have 4 people sitting at a dinner table and we kind of head hop between all 4 of those people. My brain, I'm like, I just want to know what one person is thinking. I don't need to know what everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
And so that was my only red flag, but that's me just being nitpicky. So
now I don't know if we will get that every time, because it seems like the Scythes are able to. Maybe that's because of the influence of the Scythe being there.
I think so.
Like he can tell.
Yeah.
He can read what they're thinking and stuff. So, and he also has the ability to make someone like save them for a year, or they can make them like no one can kill them for this year.
Yes.
They can't take them. What they call it, immunity or something. So it seems like they have these abilities, and it seems, and I did read the synopsis. So it seems like this girl is going to be in training, and that kind of tells us at the end of that chapter, she's like, I don't even want to do that. And he's like, well, that's the first part. Congratulations. You want to do it.
We're going to torture you now.
Yeah. Like, so, I mean, I feel like this could be good, but I'm also feeling like it might be young feeling to me. It's like on one hand, it might be good. On the other hand, if I have a problem, it's going to feel like it's young. And I don't know for sure. Although when I look on Goodreads, so this particular book one has over 260,000 ratings, and the average rating is 4.33.
Wow. That's impressive.
And it was nominee for the Best Young Adult Fantasy and Science Fiction in 2017. So there's reasons to try to push through and see. But just, I don't know, some high level, I feel like I could go either way on this, but I could go yes.
But if it is too young, I know that's what you're going to bitch about the whole time, because we've had issues in the past with other series where they felt really young. And even though they were 15, 16 at the time, like they felt like they were younger than that. They didn't feel, and it's hard to relate to characters who feel that young.
Now the guy, Rowan, he didn't feel as young. He felt like he could have been like, and I don't remember if they said how old Citra was, but Rowan, just based on what his friend was doing, I feel like he's like 17 or 18.
I think they said she was 15, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. Because I don't remember. And I'm like, but she felt like 13 or 14 to me. But, you know, something could happen and she could mature, or there could be a time jump. I don't know. Anything could happen. So I don't want to like go meh, you know, too fast. I don't know. I feel torn on this one, to be honest. It could go either way.
It could go either way.
And, you know, it's enjoyable to read a guy sometimes to break up the monotony. So maybe this could be one we save for next year, maybe, when we've had enough female authors for a while.
Let's keep this on our list. Like, it's good enough. I definitely want to keep reading more. Intrigued. But yeah, like, we could read chapters 2 and 3 and maybe even 4 just to get a feel and see, do we really want to do this? Do we not? Where are we falling? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're kind of in the same category. So far we said The Awakening, yes, and that's pending that you read more.
But based on what you said, yes.
Okay, The Kingdom of the Wicked, we said, maybe, but we liked some of the aspects of it not being in the country. We liked the twins, etc. So possibility. Scythe, we said. Also, we did say yes, essentially, but we wait a while.
We'll put it on the wait list.
Yeah. So last but not least is Malice,
which you did not like.
I'm gonna tell you why. So, and this is my own. When I looked at the cover art, I said, "This is a retelling." Like I could tell it was a retelling, and I'm like, okay. So then after I read the sample, I went back and read the synopsis. I didn't read it first. So I knew it was a retelling, but I'm like, this feels like a retelling, but of what? Of what? And then I read, it's a retelling of Sleeping Beauty. So at first I thought, is this a Cinderella retelling? Because at the beginning, they're trying to go to this ball, right? And it's like, I don't know. So we have like these, what do they call them? Graces. We have like light ones and this one dark one.
Yeah, definitely Cinderella vibes because she's down in like the basement in a room covered in soot and everything's dirty. So yeah, I could see that. I mean, it says Briar Rose everywhere, like the letter to the kingdom. So I was like, oh yeah, Briar Rose, Sleeping Beauty. Like that's
okay.
I've got it based off the name, not the synopsis. I thought it was interesting just because, you know, she's kind of embracing this darkness in herself. She doesn't really like it, but she's also doing it. And she's giving these people what they want when they don't even ask for it. Because she's like, the woman who shows up is like, my cat is attracting too many other cats. And she's like, do you want to give your cat warts? Like, yeah, I'll give her warts. This is fine.
I'm like, warts on the cat? Oh my God.
So I kind of want to see her fall into that darkness more. And my hope is that she'd become more of like an anti-hero, almost kind of villain. And that's what I got from chapter 1. That's what I hope. And of course, you know, that chapter 1 ends on that, like, well, I am a monster. So I was like, okay, maybe we can dive into this and get some good psychological, you know, fun out of it. Because usually we have the people who are like, no, I can't be a monster. I need to be good.
Yeah.
I need to suppress this and not do any bad in the world. I'm like, maybe based off this first chapter, we could get something darker and fun.
Okay. So, all right. I did read chapter 2 again, broke the rules. And I don't know. Okay, so the other women, the Graces that are there, they're kind of bratty toward her. Her name is Alice, but sometimes they call her Malice, like to be mean about it. Just because she's dark or whatever. And again, I was getting clear Cinderella, you know, evil cousin vibes. But okay, so this is what I probably would say no. I would probably say outright no to this. Because I don't think I'm in the vibe for a retelling, and it seems really non-unique to me at this point. Although, like I said, I've read the synopsis after, and then after, the synopsis still doesn't really grab me until I'm like, let's see. And you really can't tell what it is until you get to the genre tags. Okay, so in the synopsis, it says, because we all know how this story ends, don't we? Aurora is the beautiful princess, and I am the villain. And then right underneath the genre tags are fantasy, LGBT, romance, lesbian, retellings, queer, young adult. And then when I saw that, I'm like, wait a minute. So is Alice a lesbian?
Probably.
And she's going for the princess, not the prince. Like, I could not tell any of that from what I read. Nothing.
Yeah, none of that was in chapter 1.
I got no vibes of that at all in the first 2 chapters. So I'm like, okay, this is what's making it more interesting to me. But how far do I have to get past? Is it going to be where she meets the princess at the ball? Is that what the turning point is going to be? So I'm kind of interested as far as that. That's what made it interesting to me. So this one, in comparison to like the over 200,000 reviews, this one only has 22,000 reviews. And the average is 3.99.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad rating. It's really good, but the scale is much smaller.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that happens with a lot of gay books, is that people either they don't realize it's gay and then 1-star it, or they don't even read it and try and review bomb it.
So, I mean, just because of the, you know, uniqueness of that, I almost want to try it, but I just don't want to be like shitting on it if I don't like it. But that's going to happen if I don't like it. So it's like, I don't know which way to go. Like, and I've read retellings in the past, right? I've been through a what do you want to call it? Like a phase when I was reading a lot of retellings. So it's not like I dislike retellings. It's just this seemed really bland on the onset.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that because like there was no hint of any gayness in the first chapter. So I would almost want to read more. Again, like 4 or 5 chapters just to see if it's getting any better.
Because I can tell you in the second chapter it's not. So let's see. In this sample, the sample goes through chapter 4. The sample goes through chapter 4. No, 5. Through chapter 5, actually. It goes through chapter 5, and I only read the first 2. So maybe continue the sample, and if things get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a maybe.
It's a maybe.
So this is bad. So from my POV, we only got one. I only got one definitive yes, one yes for later, and 2 maybes.
I mean, The Awakening by Nora Roberts is a trilogy, right? That gives us 3 months to read through and then see how we're feeling at the end of the year. Because we sometimes, try and do like a one-off, like a holiday thing, or maybe we could do a duology.
Because a trilogy would put us firmly through September, October, and November. A trilogy would be the preference instead of doing a duology at the end of the year. Because then we'll be stuck with 2 months trying to figure out what else to do for the fantasy. And honestly, all of these are trilogies except for Malice. Malice is the only duology. The other 3 are trilogies.
So I say, let's do Nora Roberts. Let's do The Awakening. Let's see some dragons in Ireland. Let's, enjoy that.
It's going to be romancy, I think.
I know. It's Nora Roberts.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And then we can reassess. And we have 3 maybes for next year.
Okay, you guys, I want you to tell us. We're gonna go with Nora Roberts. That's done. We've decided
that's done. One and done.
But I do want to hear from you. We want to know what you would pick. So maybe you might be able to put some weight behind our next choice. Because none of these have been no's. None of these are outright no's. So yeah, convince us. Tell us what you love the most.
Read.
Yeah, and why. Tell us what you like the most and why. And yeah, oh my gosh, this was fun to do in this way.
This was fun.
Yeah. I feel like it made me consider it a little more, being that I knew I'd have to talk about them instead of just reading it and being like, nah. I feel like I was more paying attention.
Yeah, because there's 4 options, and we have to weigh the options, or to be like, do I like this one better or worse? Is it grabbing me? Is there something that's annoying me?
If we do this again, I think I would change the title to The Sample Challenge. Because we have to read the whole sample. Well, and we could do less. We could do 3, but samples. Because I feel strongly that a chapter wasn't enough. It wasn't. You would have said no to Nora Roberts if I hadn't read more. You would have said no.
Because, again, you're right. Chapter 1 wasn't enough. I thought it was very just women's fiction. It felt very bland. It wasn't different enough to capture me yet. But no, you've convinced me to keep going, so we're going to do it.
I love when that happens. And hopefully I'm right, because Lord knows I hate when I pick something and we fucking hate it. I hate that so bad.
It's Nora Roberts. It should be good, but we'll see.
I don't know. Let's see. So did I say what that rating was? I don't think I did. So this one isn't the most popular of her books. Book 1 has it's just shy of 50,000 ratings. So this is definitely not one of her most popular ones, but it comes in at 4.23 average.
Oh, wow. That's a good average.
Even just glancing at the third one, comes in at 4.37. So all of these rate over 4. All 3
that's
books.
Good. Yeah,
that's really good. Let's see, Kingdom of the Wicked series, it drops below 4. So it starts with 3.92, goes up for the second book, and goes down again for the third book.
Ooh.
Scythe stays over 4 for the entire trilogy. 4.33, 4.41, and 4.2. And then, of course, Malice comes in at 3.99 and then 3.82 for the second book. So I feel positive about Nora. I feel like she's going to be consistent, if nothing else.
I think so. And I think it'll be good and fun and different from what we normally read.
Yeah, because lately on the podcast and in the book club, we did 2 duologies while you've been gone. And the one, oh my God, I was surprised. So one was actually from TikTok. And have you heard of The Ashes? Oh, no, that's book 2. What was the first book? The first book was... Okay, here we go. I'm like, this is the longest title ever. Like, why are you doing this to me? Okay, so Carissa Broadbent is the author, and book 1 is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Like, that is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Yeah. Long ass title. Book 2 is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. And this is one I was like, I don't know. It's TikTok, and I actually liked it. I liked it. Oh. TikTok didn't fail us. So we're doing book 2 this month in July. So
yay.
Yeah. So after that, we have a month off. We have August off, everybody, for the thrillers. I'm not thriller, fantasy. So if you're reading along with the fantasy, you already know what we're reading next. So you know what we'll be reading in September. It's been revealed right here on the podcast.
In real time. Let's figure it out.
Yes. And Casey will be back on the fantasy series with us then.
I will be back.
So, it's been fun with our guest. Our guest has been Smaya. If you guys have been listening, that's my sister. She did a good job reviewing.
That's excellent.
Yes, her first time reviewing books like in this capacity. So it's a good time. It's some good listens. You guys, if you haven't heard them, go back and listen. It's interesting to hear me with a different co-host. Well, we're different than me and Casey are.
Oh, yeah.
So you might get a kick out of it, especially now that it's been revealed that's my sibling. So you might get a different POV on that discussion now. You know how it is, but you know
how it is.
But
sisters.
We have a good time. Yeah, we love it. It's fun. So I'm glad she was able to help me out this summer. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Are we done?
I think so.
Woo-hoo!
I think we're done.
This was fun. I'm glad. We might keep this up. We might do it every year. Once a year, we might do it to get some more ideas.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this was the easy way.
The fun way.
The fun way. All right. I think we'll end things there. You guys, if you're still listening and you hear the sound of my voice, don't forget to subscribe and like the podcast wherever you are listening. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. And until then, take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.